Well, folks, we'll go ahead and get started here. My name's Tony Bachov, and I'm the track announcer here at the Knoxville Raceway, and so we're glad you're here with us this weekend. And this is really a great kickoff to what's going to be a fun weekend with the World of Outlaws in town, and which has actually turned out to be our opening weekend here since we got rained out last week. So if you weren't here last week, you're in for a real treat this week. So it's my honor to be here tonight to host this event and to really reflect back on some of the pioneers in racing and what brought us to where we are today. And tonight we'll salute Cheryl Glass and learn a little bit about someone that didn't have people knocking at her door to fund her race team and make it easy for her. She had to work at it, and she was very successful. And I think it's going to be an interesting story tonight to learn more about her. To my left is Cheryl's mother, Shirley Glass. And so we're glad to have you here with us tonight, Shirley.
Oh, thank you.
And on my right is her mechanic, Jim National Grantham. That's the nickname, right?
Yeah, I was given that.
You were given that. So I'll start with Shirley. And Shirley, if you could just kind of tell us a little bit about Cheryl. And she was interested in a lot of things, from ceramics, racing. She went on to college to do a lot of different things. It wasn't that she was just focused on racing. She was very diverse and had a very broad perspective in life.
Yes. Her thing was that a lot of people get stumped because they always think they have to have a role model to do something. And she felt that everybody should do the best they can, and that was the rewards of success. She started her own business at 9 years old, a ceramic business. And she sold her ceramics to Frederick and Nelson at that time, which is a big store.
Okay.
And she just continued to do things that were out of the box. Whatever she wanted to do, she set a goal, and she did it. And she said most people can do what they want to do. It just takes some people a little bit longer. That was her thing on that.
Yeah, it's for the camera.
She did lots of that. She did ceramics, like I said. She did dolls. She had her own dress business in Seattle, downtown Seattle, one of the finest shops in Seattle. And she started that from her own wedding, where again she did the best she can. And everybody who worked on her wedding did it out of love. And the people who worked on her car, when she was car racing, did it out of love because we didn't have all that money. It took a lot of money, and it was very hard for a woman to get a lot of sponsors. So everybody who worked on that did it out of love. And like I said, when people do love, good things can happen from that. She was interested in the community. She did a lot of things in the community with children, the museum, you name it, she was involved in it. She loved people, and she was shy, believe it or not. She never watched herself on television.
Really?
Don't care what it was. She didn't want to watch it, and she could never understand why anybody would stand in line for her autograph. That was just unbelievable. She didn't understand that at all.
As a mother, how did you feel about watching your daughter race?
Terrible. I was always so nervous about it, and I can remember when she won this big trophy where she beat 45 guys out of racing, you know. I didn't even see the thing because I was so scared. I had my head buried down in the thing. I missed the whole event. So I was not one of those moms who was cheering on, but I was cheering on, but I was so scared you probably couldn't hear me cheering. So that's how I felt about racing.
She had some success. She won 5 consecutive state and regional championships in Seattle.
Yeah, she did. Yeah, yeah.
That's got to be something that makes you feel really good to know that against all the odds and the competition and all those things, that she was still able to go out there and be very successful.
Yeah, it was about not necessarily winning, but doing the best you can with whatever you had. She wasn't focusing on winning. It was focusing on doing what you like to do. And I think we get too involved in winning, and we don't enjoy whatever we're doing. And I think that's one of the things she tried to portray in her whole life, is to enjoy life and do your best.
And Jim, from a mechanic's perspective, you know, I'm sure the other mechanics in the pits thought, man, what are you doing working on a girl's race car? You know, we're going to beat you anyway. And she went out there and showed a lot of them that she could race a race car competitively.
Yeah, she was a I met Marvin and Cheryl, her dad, racing quarter midgets, and we ran together for 2 years, went to the Nationals with that. And then she decided she wanted to drive sprint cars. And built the motors, I had the machine working and done, and I'd assemble them. And I ran with her for 2 years. She was exceptional. She was probably too brave. I guess one of my favorite stories is we were running California. We were running a 10-race series down there, and I was walking out of the airport and I ran into Leland McSpadden, and he come up to me and he says, the first thing he says, you know, you can tell that young lady that she doesn't need to drive it in 5 feet further than everybody else. So I had a lot of fun. Did it for 2 years. And then I went on to build the racetrack at Elma, and I didn't have time to do it. But first year I bought a used car, and it took her a little while to get going, but thanks to Jim Raper, we were able to get up there on a Sunday to where she could hang the car out and not worry about everybody else. And that's when she came alive and really started driving. So it was a lot of fun.
You know, she had aspirations to go to Indianapolis like most race car drivers do. Did you ever find yourself trying to reel her back in and keep her focused on racing the quarter midgets and the sprint cars?
No, with Cheryl, I wouldn't say that. I just encouraged her driving. We worked together as far as what she was doing and to do better and make the car run better, and that was basically my job.
What was your most memorable race with her?
I went in the season closer, and that was a Skagit. She won that, and then also she was Rookie of the Year. I think overall she finished third in points for the season, and so we had a lot of good times, and won one race that year, and then went on to the next year.
Interestingly enough, she was the first woman to win the Rookie of the Year honors. That's quite a feat itself, something that's still to this day a record that she holds.
Mm-hmm. And I was impressed with her in the quarter midgets. I also ran my son, mm-hmm. and then so that, you know, we went on from there.
Did you ever have to pick which car you were going to tune better, running against your son?
Well, my son was quite a bit younger at the time, and then we went on later to run wing sprinters, 360 class, and we started at 6 years old and ran up until he was 34 years old. And then my grandson came along, so we retired, and I go fishing now.
Cheryl was really a pioneer in the sport, and if you look over the sport today, there's never been a lot of women race car drivers that, you know, there are a few today that have been very successful, but there wasn't as many as you might think. What would you attribute that to?
I think she was one of the first. I think I'm trying to think of her name that ran at Indy, but I don't remember too many other women at that time that were trying to run race cars.
Shirley, if you would have went to Indianapolis, would you have still not watched?
I'd have peeked.
You know, if you look down through the credits, you know, the Rookie of the Year, the championships, the success that she had moving up through the classes, if she would have put away her engineering degrees and her medical schooling and the ceramics and focused on racing, what would you have thought of that?
I don't think she was the one focused person. She had worked both sides of her brain, and the artistic side would pop up. And that's why she had a dress shop. She made clothes that were unbelievable, her own original designs, each one.
Wow.
So I think she would have had to keep that part of herself going, you know, working both sides of the brain. That she wouldn't be happy unless she was doing that.
If there was one thing you could tell young lady drivers that are passionate about racing, something that Cheryl would want them to know to keep in the back of their mind and stay focused, what would that be?
Follow your dreams. Whatever it is, don't let anybody tell you you can't do it. That word should not be ever used. may take you a little bit longer, she said, but stick with it. Because when she was racing, sponsors were on her. It was very difficult to get sponsors. And some companies did step up later after they saw how well she was doing and recognized that she was going to do something to help her. But you just have to keep working at it and keep selling yourself.
I think it's a great attribute. There's some things on the wall. If you get a chance this weekend to read about Cheryl and the cars, we're going to talk more about those here in just a little bit. But it's an interesting story that you know, not a lot of people know about, and it's definitely one worth reading into because she was an amazing lady that did a lot of things that people said she couldn't do, and I think she impressed a lot of people, and still to this day is holding records that have never been matched. And I think that's a great attribute to someone that tried hard and did what she loved.
And Mama didn't know that.
Any questions? Anyone would like to ask a question or two? Go ahead, Barb.
At what age did she start racing?
I think she was, what, about 6 years old or something like that, about 6 years old. She had a little car. We got, her grandmother, her great-grandmother was a buggy racer. And when she was a little girl, she bought a car that we bought her before 6, you know, the little kind with the little motor. She liked that. And then she sold ceramics to the Frederick and Nelson department store and bought her first quarter midget. That's how she purchased herself. We wanted to make sure that's what she wanted to do.
I think it was $300 she gave for that first one.
Yeah, something like that. And it wasn't the best of the best either. They laughed about that car because it was ugly, you know. It wasn't the first big car, so yeah.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Are there more women entering the field of racing as years go by?
Well, I think if you look at some of the lady racers today, there have been a lot of ladies that have tried. There have been some that are very successful, like you see today. And I think when the girls that are thinking about racing learn about people like Cheryl and the things that they were able to do, that's what attracts more young ladies to want to enter racing and be a part of it.
Right, because they've been told, no, you can't do that. You know, that's not for a girl. You're not going to be successful. But that's, you know, like I say, each person has to decide. It's not going to be easy, but there are more girls doing that now than there were because men have become more open towards women in racing in all other fields.
Anyone else have any other questions? Those are some great things. It's an interesting story, and we're going to learn some more about the cars and some of the folks that Cheryl drove for here tonight, so that'll be, I'm sure, some interesting stories to hear, probably some that you want to plug your ears for.
Oh, okay. We haven't talked about that part just by looking at it, right?
I just wanted to say, Cheryl was one of my close friends, and she was a phenomenal person, and she wanted to win. And she made, when you say no, she made it on, reverse it, it was on. And that's how she was committed, and she was dedicated, and she wanted to do a good job. And she wanted her parents to be very proud of her too. And so she kept that in her mind, and that's why she succeeded.
You bet.
She was always saying, I get tired of people saying, I'm Shirley Glasses, Mom and Glasses, child. I want to be my own person.
Great. Well, I think keep you guys here, and we'll bring Charlie up. Come on up and join us up here, if you'd like, Charlie.
I thought you were in my seat.
No, you're welcome to stay. I thought you didn't want to sit by me anymore. There you go.
In the corners where I've been all my life. Okay. Charlie Patterson.
Well, Charlie, we're glad to have you here with us tonight, and you've got a beautiful race car over here. Tell us a little bit about what it was like having Shirley drive for you and owning the car, and some of the things that you guys were very successful at. Cheryl, I'm sorry. Go ahead, take that.
Okay. Well, I had a Silver Crown car that I'd had several top drivers in it over the years, and So I wanted to try something a little different, and I'd been reading about what Cheryl had done up on the West Coast there, so I thought, well, we'll try something. So I called her mother first and talked to her mother about twice, and finally got Cheryl on the phone, and we worked a deal to get her back in the Midwest and fit her to the race car and got everything ready to go to run the Indy race at the fairgrounds. It was a mile track, and she had not run on anything that big, so naturally it was a big step for her to come from the small race cars, small racetracks to the big Silver Crown car. But she was able to make the qualifier race. She missed the main field by one car. She made it through the qualifier race, and she ran fairly well. But it was obvious that she needed more time on the racetrack, more practice time. So we just kind of let it go for then and not trying to bring her back. I had a chance to get some other drivers that were top flight drivers around the country, and so it never worked out that I could get her back in the car again. But had I have had the money and the time, and I think if we could have spent some time on the tracks running her, then I think that we could have really turned her into a top flight driver. But it was just one of those things, the lack of money and the lack of time for her on the big tracks like that, and it didn't work out. But well, I felt very honored to have her in the car and make the race there at Indy, and it was just a delightful thing to work with her. And the other thing was, there had never been a girl in a Silver Crown car before, and there's not been one since. So we still hold that deal of being the only girl to run a Silver Crown car, and she made the feature and did fairly well until the car it got where it didn't handle, didn't suit her, and she was smart enough to bring it in rather than drive it through the fence somewhere and hurt herself. And she had just hurt herself down in Florida. So therefore I didn't want to get her hurt again in the big car, so we never pushed her too hard. So, but it was quite an honor, and it was neat to meet her mother, because I'd talked with her on the phone, had never met her. Her dad come back with her. He was there with us, and he was fun to be around. He was my bodyguard if I needed one, because he was about 1.5 feet taller than me, so we never had many arguments while she was in the car. But it was one of those treasured moments of my life. I've been in racing for 52 years, and it was one of the treasured moments of my life to be a part of history being made with Cheryl. So that's about it that I can tell right now. And if there's any questions, why, be more than happy to.
Tell us a little bit about the car. There's quite a history with that car.
Well, that car had a lot of history. Now, as you can see on the picture, when Cheryl drove that car, it had a roll cage on it. But this is what it looked like before we had it, and it was run in that configuration, and then they rebuilt it afterwards. They took the cage off and they put it back to its original look. But it was quite a car. We've had several drivers. Arnie Knepper drove it some. Emmett Hahn drove it after Cheryl got out of it. So the car has got a lot of history, and I'm just proud to be a part of history with that car and with Cheryl's. So
it's a beautiful car.
Yeah, it is. It's been greatly restored. So
Speedy Bill, before you sit down, I didn't catch you in time. I'm going to give you my seat.
Oh, look at that. What got it going on?
you want this one now? Or?
No, you stay right where you're at.
Okay.
Yep. Speedy Bill, you were another one of the car owners and people that were lucky to be a part of Cheryl's racing. And why don't you tell us a little about your involvement and some of the time that you spent?
Well, Cheryl raced for me in 1980. I had the vision of putting a team together with 2 cars and using 2 real good talents. I had Schumann and Cheryl teamed together, and we started off in '80 in Tampa, Florida. The cars that we had, Doug Wolfgang and I had built in '79 when we were in the chassis business together and actually won the Knoxville Nationals in that type car. A little different, unusual looking car. They later called it the Outlaw because of the hood configuration. And Cheryl came back to Lincoln before we left to go to Florida in the 1st of February. She came into Lincoln and spent almost a week there getting fit and learning who we were and what we were. I have 4 sons who are were about the same age as Cheryl at that time, and I know they in the evenings after we got through working during the day, they did the bar scenes, which I think young people like to do that still. But Cheryl had an awful lot of talent, almost in everything that she had done. She came with a lot of credibility, well educated. I think she had a degree in electrical engineering.
She stopped doing that to race and run her business.
Okay. Pretty girl. Like I say, very bright. A lot of talent. I may not have as much talent to talk about that as other people, but been there and done most of this. But Cheryl, the way I viewed her, was a phenomenon that it's too bad that she didn't pursue it or get the right breaks, all the things that a lot of times timing is everything, or being in the right place at the right time.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions from anyone? Well, it's been a great, and it's been 30 minutes. That was quick. I can't believe it, but it's been great to get a snapshot into the talents of Cheryl and the people that she's touched. And I'm glad that there's an opportunity for folks to come here this weekend and learn about her and her career and those that have been involved. And if you'd all give them a round of applause, thank you for being here with us and telling us more about her. We're very honored. All right.